as the host for the association, introduce you to my two colleagues here. Firstly, Dr. Danny Jordan, who is Vice President of the association and also the Vice President in charge of the cluster that deals with international relations. Unfortunately, the President is not able to be here. He had to go back to his home in the far north over this weekend. So he's not here today, but I'm sure you will agree that meeting with Dr. Jordan is more than compensates, and because of his profile in delivering the best World Cup so far, as the CEO of the organising committee, and a man who really spent many years bringing the World Cup to the country. And then on my right is the man who has been in SAFA as long as SAFA has been around, but the CEO of the Football Association, who took over from me when I stepped across to set up the development agency at the beginning of this year. Dennis was my Chief Operating Officer and became the CEO, and has a massive institutional memory and knowledge of this association. So really on behalf of SAFA and the SAFA Development Agency, welcome to you. And it's good, just to give them the background, because I don't know if Danny knows this, that I was invited to come and present at your first conference of the Goa Football Development Council. And I went across, I think in February this year, and did a presentation on our technical master plan and on the work of the agency. And through that, we've established a fairly lengthy and good correspondence. Udit has been out here to have a few meetings with us in paving the way for thinking about how, as two development entities, we can create the partnership that will be mutually beneficial. So that's the broader background to our relationship with Goa. I don't know who would want to do the intros from your side, and then I'll ask Danny to.
Transstadia is a young company which is we're 4 years young. Our parent is Setco Automotive, which has even operations now in South Africa. We are a very large, India's largest clutch manufacturing company, the parent. Udit conceived Transstadia 4 years ago, and we have a very long-term vision to the sports sector in India. We conceived India's first public-private partnership in sports infrastructure, which is coming up in the state of Gujarat, a very progressive state. And we're also doing development across various platforms. We've gone into technologies and all that. We'll share with you all that. Udit, to my Udit's left is Mr. Elvis Gomes. He is a very, very able administrator from the state of Goa. Has had very noticeable achievements to his credit. He's been in various parts of administration, and he also is part of the Goa Football Association. So at the FA level, he played a very active role, and he was the architect of development, and that's how Goa Football Development Council came into being, which is, the chairman is Dr. Rufino, who's a cardiologist, but a very passionate lover of the sport, and both of them have been driving the development of this initiatives in the past 1 year. It's got very noticeable achievements, which we'll share with you in our presentation to you gentlemen too. And you realize that as much as we may not be amongst the top 100 countries in FIFA rankings, but there's a change in India, and we are part of that change, and we would like to see, because India and South Africa have a very strong relationship, bilateral relationship, we want to extend it into sports. Cricket has always been in the forefront, and we see football to be the next frontier that we should engage in. That's where the beginning is. We've come as a delegation to see how well we can engage together, make a long-term relationship, and well, I would, without being rude, well, you have been the best event organizers to the world, but both countries are developing the sport, and we see that there could be common learnings that we can exchange and make both countries become better footballing nations. That's where we come from.
No, thank you very much. And let me also just say welcome to our country. I hope you have a good stay. I think that it comes at a very opportune time, your visit. Because one of the things that I think is important is that both South Africa and India are members of BRICS. And I've raised it before that in the BRICS summit, sport, neither football nor cricket or any other sport is even on the agenda.
True.
And I see you are from the government of Goa. This is something that we want to raise with our government, and I'm certainly that you should raise. Because while there's a shift in the global economy, nothing else has shifted. Nothing else has shifted. And the basis on which the control of FIFA and other federations, in cricket you've succeeded, but in football, that control is based on the argument that the economy was in Europe. Now, that story has changed, but the power relations remain the same, pre-colonial and pre-2008. So there's something that we have to do. But the first thing is to, as people say, you must sweep in front of your door first. South Africa and India faces this challenge is that we have to focus on development. We have to get competitive teams, and we have to perform at junior levels, leading to senior levels. These are the challenges. So, and that is why we thought it was important to take the CEO of SAFA and put him in charge of this important task. Because responding to the letters and doing the day-to-day administration without a clear focus on the development requirements and building strong competitive national teams is not going to help us. And because it's such an important task, you need a singular focus on this area. And I'm happy to see that you too probably came to the same conclusion that this need the dedicated attention and focus. Together with, I see your government support, together with the private sector. And that is what we want to do. So I'm sure that in conversation with Dr. Pearson, you'll explore all these things. But critically, it is a fact in this country that the transformation of cricket, first in economic terms, was as a result of India's partnership with South Africa. In financial terms, immediately, because India holds power on broadcasting, it changed to the extent of additional 300 million rand to Cricket South Africa. And if that relationship, which I read in the paper, is now a bit wobbly, and I understand that if you are friends, you must be consistent. You must be consistent and take into account the concern of your friends. And I think when we look at the relationship with India, we want to look at development, at building competitive national teams, but also to say, what must we do together? Perhaps together with Russia, together with China, together with Brazil, we will have a significant voice that cannot be ignored inside global football. But if we don't organize ourselves, but we do individually, then India will be ignored, Brazil will be ignored, South Africa will be ignored, Russia will plead. And so I think that conversation also is important. So I think there are three challenges that we have. One, of course, how do we use the current economic relationship between South Africa and India to leverage for greater financial support for the sport in our countries, both in India and South Africa. There are many Indian companies already operating. How can we work together with you to build that partnership so that when Indian companies come, they know their financial... I know it's natural, their first concern will be cricket. But together with you, we hope to explain to them that actually the cricket focus of India is a football focus in South Africa. And just the flow. And therefore we need Indian businesses to recognize it and give us greater support. I don't think we have. We worked with Sachin, who came into the 2010 World Cup, and they are still there with FIFA. So it's an indication that Indian businesses want to use the sports platforms to make an impact. And here, in partnership with Indian business, Indian government, South African business, South African government, we can bring about a significant shift in the global politics of football. So I think it's an important conversation that we must have, and that specifically this project, I think, will give us the basis to broaden the conversation. But for now, I think we must do this first. I'd like to welcome you and look forward to be working with you, and eventually to work with the Indian Football Federation, and then to share ideas, and then jointly to say how do we engage our respective government to get it to the level of BRICS and really make it a global focus driven by India and South Africa. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I think Dr. Dulan and Dr. Peterson pretty much said enough, so I would just add my voice to welcome you as we did the last time. We're looking forward to extending cooperation with you, working with you, and making sure, as Dr. Jajani said, that we both benefit from this relationship. I agree that we have a lot of things in common that we can use and approach the development of the game in both of our countries. So again, from our side, once again, welcome, and we will be working with you in the next couple of months.
Well, thank you so much for having us over. I think to add to what Nitin has mentioned and you've said, India offers a very nice demographic platform. We're a very young country. We're almost 60% of us are below the age of 27 in India, and the youth in India is taking to football. The young kids are playing more football than they're playing cricket, and this is a fact in India because they're all following football, but they're not following Indian football. They're following European football. The Honorable Chief Minister of the state of Goa, India is like Europe. It has 32 different states. Everyone has a different food, a different language, a different physiology. And Goa, which has always been the capital of football in the country, has taken the leading step in development of the sport. So the way the Chief Minister has mandated this council, to whom we are a knowledge partner to, is that we have to, half of the Indian team has to come from this state. This state has to train as many national youngsters in the game of football, not just to make them professionals in football, but also to make them play the sport. And this is what we want to target in terms of getting some of the best practices that you have, and maybe even do some exchange programs on knowledge partnerships, on teams coming and playing across in both places. And I really like the idea of having a BRICS tournament, and that is something that one should possibly try and develop as a medium to long-term strategy in terms of taking.
Particularly in the youth teams, it's great
teams.
to have that because it's possible to work that around.
Goa had taken the step. It's unfortunate it didn't get realized. There was a BRICS proposed beach soccer event.
Yes.
So we were going to field a team, but that event was called off. So the first step was made. We've always been looking forward to this relationship maturing.
Yeah, I know that came just. I think it came just a bit late, but I think we were certainly prepared to participate. We're looking forward to that.
This
Hopefully it gets revived.
for FIFA too, the key markets is India, China, United States. because of population size and television viewership. The day India and China qualified for the World Cup, I think on that day, Sablata would dance.
Wow.
Because in 2002, when China was in the World Cup, the television audience jumped per match almost by 1 billion. So out of the 3 billion, 1 billion was just accounting for China on a cumulative basis. Now, if you have a billion in China and 1 billion in India, FIFA knows that on a cumulative basis, they can add another 2 billion to the television audience. And that is important. I know even from I was part of the FIFA evaluation team on the last bidders 2018 and 2022. I'm just saying, no, these guys are rolling the tape, so I can't talk.